Character influences all areas of our lives, especially our decisions and goals in life. These days, parents are competing with all kinds of influences to protect their children's minds and hearts, praying and hoping that their children will exemplify good character. Joining us to discuss this is Kathy Koch. She is a child development specialist and president of Celebrate Kids, Inc. Her latest book is Parent Differently. Welcome to Bridge City News, Dr. Kathy.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Yes, we're very happy to have you and chat about raising up some good quality human beings. Dr. Kathy, I wanted to ask you, what prompted you to write this book about children and biblical character?
Yeah, I believe that children are capable of much, and I think they can make a difference right now. They don't have to grow up to be somebody; they are somebody. I want to empower them to step out and, when they're kind and polite, when they don't gossip, when they tell the truth, they're changing culture because they're changing the quality of the relationship they're in. Also, I really believe that if their character isn't stellar, then they don't become who God created them to be. They were created to be someone. They have great gifts. We know that from Ephesians 2:10. And if they don't live out healthy character, they're not going to achieve what God wanted them to achieve, and we all lose out on that. I also wrote the book because parents are frustrated because kids are hard to raise today, and I wanted to give parents some help.
Awesome. Well, that sounds great. It sounds like you're talking about like that adage that says that a rising tide raises all boats, but that we also rise to our level of expectation. Can you talk a little bit about that?
That's a really good point. Moms and dads are going to be confronted with their character when they read this book. Grandparents and teachers, many of them have already told me that they enjoyed the book, but it was challenging because they realized that if they want their children to be patient, they're going to have to be patient. If they want their kids to be other-centered, they can't be self-centered because children are watching us. So altogether, you're exactly right. We become like those we hang out with, and children become who parents tell them they are. And so it's very, very important that we pay attention.
Well, that's a really good statement that the children are watching and listening, and they're listening for how their parent identifies them.
Yeah.
So can you talk about this quality of character in the parent and why it matters?
Well, it matters because parents matter. Even if adults don't have children, their character matters because we either represent God or we don't, in the way that we behave, in the way that we interact with people. Certainly, if you have little ones watching you, they learn a lot from what they see. They learn a lot from what you say. And if they don't match up, if there's no integrity, then kids are confused. When kids are confused, they don't tend to make wise decisions. And so integrity is an important character quality. And when we own up to our mistakes, we actually benefit. Our children actually benefit from that because now they're more able to come to us with their mistakes because they know that we can handle it, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah, it matters. We need to become the very best people that we can be so that they can become the very best people they can be.
Well, that totally puts a different spin on the responsibility parents have, and even aunts and uncles, around that next generation. Could you maybe talk about how parents and aunts and uncles, by extension, or grandparents, can go about teaching the children how to even develop their own character?
Yeah, I would love to do that. I believe in using specific language as an example rather than telling our children, well, you were really good. And good is almost a non-word. It says that I've judged you, I'm happy, but it doesn't empower the children to do it again. So, well, you were generous. I appreciate that you gave away some of what you own. You were patient when grandma was walking so slow. You looked out for others. You were compassionate. When your brother fell, you didn't laugh. You went to see if he was okay. I love that your heart is becoming compassionate. What does that mean, mommy? It means that you notice that somebody's in trouble and you want to help. So using specific language is really a very easy way. And you can set a goal as a family and decide the whole family is going to work on generosity or resilience or kindness. And not that your kids call it out in a bad way, because that would be disrespectful, which would be not a good quality to have. But I think that's part of it. I think direct teaching, this is what it is, this is what it isn't. I think using scripture for examples, either specific from Proverbs or a time when Jesus or Daniel or Esther exemplified the character that you want your kids to have, I think is another way to do it.
Right. Yeah. Well, you write that character traits are connected, and that understanding this is a key to teaching character. Could you dive a little bit into that?
Yeah, I would love to. I appreciate you asking that question because I don't want parents overwhelmed listening, going, I can't teach character. It's this big, ugly thing. I say in the book, there's 48 qualities that are worth teaching. There's 13 Baker's dozen, the top 13. There's a top three of the 13. But what we can do is we can realize they're connected. As an example, we can only be patient when maybe we can only be patient when we're other centered. We realize there's other people in the room that are also involved in this situation. I was in line in an airport. It was a bad situation. Everyone around me is complaining, and I didn't. And that's not about me. That's about God empowering me to be who I say I am. And so I realized that I was patient because I'm optimistic. I believe the best for people and in people. I'm others centered. And those qualities undergirded my ability to be patient. It doesn't help to say to a kid, be patient, be patient, be patient. Maybe there's reasons that they're not patient, and those are the negative qualities that we need to deal with first. Make sense?
Yeah, that's actually a really good way to look at it. And I like that idea of the baker's dozen. It almost sounds like I mentioned already a rising tide raises all boats. So I suppose that if you start teaching a few of these character traits, other ones are just going to get picked up and become a kind of a mass. Could you talk maybe about, you mentioned patience, so could you maybe give an example of how a parent could actually teach on self-centeredness and how that impacts patience?
Oh dear. Wow.
Maybe that's too big of a
Yeah.
question, but
No, it's a great question, and I appreciate the connection. I think it's huge. First, I want to say that self-centeredness is an epidemic in our world because of technology. We become very self-focused. Hello, selfies. And I'm not opposed to being on technology, but we have to be really careful of that. So when I'm self-centered, the world revolves around me. I'm the most important person in the room, and everybody serves me. So we can teach children what self-centeredness causes. And if they're a believer, they won't like it. And if they want to be a good kid, they're not going to like discovering that these are the beliefs that they're holding. And so, again, rather than saying, you're patient, but be patient, we say, I've noticed that you talk always about yourself.
hmm.
I've noticed that when other people have a conversation and they stop talking, you don't ask them to elaborate on their story. You tell them your story. So you're very self-focused, and we're not happy about that. Parents have a right to being unhappy about things. Parents have a right to be disappointed. So I'm disappointed in your choice to elevate yourself because other people matter more than we do. We've been trying to raise you up for that. And we've noticed that because you think you're so important, you're quickly irritable, quickly angry, quickly impatient. I think you're judging people. That's why you're impatient. Now, I wouldn't, Michael, I wouldn't do that all as quickly as I just did it. The kid would run from the room. But if you've earned the right to speak truth to children, what children tell me is they want to know how to be well and do well. They don't want to be a problem, most of them. And they will respect the conversation that's, bite-sized, developmentally appropriate for their age and all of that.
Yeah, I think a really good way to look at it is the development of the child, their maturity level. But I wanted to ask you, how are children's beliefs connected to their character choices?
Back to the example I just stated. If I believe I'm the most important person in the room, then I don't have to be generous and I don't have to be kind and I don't have to care about you and I don't even have to be agreeable. You all have to be that toward me because I'm the most important person in the room. If I believe that my mom loves my sister more, my mom just affirmed my sister, my mom just spent time with my sister. And so I'm angry and I'm hurt and I'm concerned and maybe confused that mommy doesn't love me as much, then I act out and now I pick on my sister and I yell at my sister and I tease my sister and I shame my sister. And what moms and dads need to understand is there's always something hidden under the surface. What is it? Because you know what, Michael? None of us are 24/7, 365 impatient or kind or generous or outgoing. There's always things that trigger our choices. And when moms and dads watch long enough and listen deeply enough to figure out what is the thing that's hidden, we talk about that, it can change everything. Kids need to know they're not bad kids. There's a belief that is messing with their mind and their behavior, and we can call that out.
That's really interesting. That's a good perspective to have too on like systemic issues, I suppose, amongst the siblings. Now, how is character connected even to the family values that parents model?
I think that character is how would I say it? I think character is essential for family values to be passed on. If you have a family value of pro-life, a family value of generosity, a family value of multi-generational love, a family value of adopting, fostering, caring for the widows and the orphans, then you want to pass that on, I would assume, so that your children carry on the vision. Maybe you learned this from your grandparents and you want it to be a part of your name retention, if you will. Then character, it has to be character that we are known, our characters, our reputation. And as you said in the intro, it does influence our decision making. So I love to say to parents, do you know what you believe? Look around. What's the evidence that you believe that? How's your behavior showing up? And then have you taught that to your kids? Have you explained the why and the what? And then do you expect them to develop the kind of character that's going to allow those things to carry on in them?
Yeah. And I am sure that I was just thinking about children. They hear that Santa's watching and has a naughty list and a good list. And once, as parents, you're going to realize that your child actually has the naughty list and the good list for the parents. They're always watching. So what can parents do to ensure that their children, let's say, feel safe to ask for help with decision making, for example?
Right. No, I love that because I want children to go to their parents first. I don't want children to ask Siri on their phone. Because Siri's a liberally programmed computer that doesn't know them, love them, or know or love their God, and it's actually very dangerous. Um, so we've got to be really careful. So, Michael, we have to be present without our phones. We have to want to have fun with our children. If our children don't enjoy us, they're more likely to, if you will, stay away. If every conversation is always serious, they're not going to want to have conversations with us. So do we go, on bike rides, or do we shovel together and make it a game of sorts? Do we hang out? Children tell me all the time, I wish my daddy liked me. He has to love me. He doesn't have a choice. I wish he liked me. So if you want your children to feel safe, you have to know them and they have to believe that you know them, what turns them on and what ticks them off. And bottom line, be available. A lot of kids like talking about tough stuff in the dark. They don't want to look into your eyes when they know they're going to scare you or disappoint you. So if you want to talk about their dishonesty or the fact that they've been unkind lately, or whatever the situation may be, maybe they're not very grateful and they're entitled and you're sick of it because this is the season of giving and all they're talking about is getting, getting, getting. Talk in the dark. They're often more intimate there. You can go for car rides. They love that. They can't look into your eyes. And so you might be able to get them to talk more.
Wow, that explains a lot. I never thought of the indirect eye contact for having that conversation. I'm definitely going to have to use that one over Christmas when I'm around the nieces and the nephews. So I wanted to ask you, when identifying positive character traits to develop in our children, why is it important to also identify and talk about their negative traits?
Yes, thanks for asking that. In my book, I include an appendix of the 48 qualities, and for each of the positives, I do list out the negatives because children have to know what to change out of. Ephesians 4 has a change process embedded in it, verses 22 through 24. We take off the old self and we put on the new self, and we change our mind, which happens in the Word of God. And so, and often parents tell me that it's the negative quality that they observe, right? They're sick and tired of their kids arguing or debating or, gossip or lying or unfriendly behavior, the lack of loyalty. They're irresponsible. They see the negatives. And the negative will often say, oh, it's responsibility that I need to help my kid with. Now, responsibility means they have to be honest and humble, but they're also prideful. So it allows us to see again the connection of the positives and also the negatives are connected. And so we need to use the language specifically again and help them remove the negative. We don't want you to behave this way. We want you to behave this way. And it gives children something to point for, and it gives them an awareness of what to stop doing. Isaiah says, Isaiah chapter 1, take off and stop doing what's wrong and start doing what's right. Isaiah 1, stop doing what's wrong and start doing what's right. Kids need to know both.
Right. And it's really interesting the way that they're connected and their opposites are connected. So I wanted to ask you, in what ways do the positive and negative consequences build biblical character in children?
Yes, one of the most important things we have to do is get out of our children's way, meaning that we allow the consequences to do their work. If your children gossip, Their friends are not going to trust them with the innermost thoughts of their mind and heart, and your children will be disappointed. They're going to have to learn to earn back their trust. One of the most important things I think that parents can do when we talk about modeling behavior is talk about what happened if you made a bad choice. True story, a gentleman who's reading my book went to work and forgot to finish a report. He got stuck doing what he wanted to do, did not do what his boss needed him to do. There was a knock on the door at 3 o'clock. Where's the report? I needed it at 2. The guy was embarrassed. He comes home and the boy says, "How was your day, Dad?" And that dad admitted to the son and daughter that he made a mistake. Sometimes you do the same thing, don't you? You get stuck doing what you want to do rather than what you're supposed to do. And I was caught. I'm embarrassed. I'm going to have to build back trust with my boss. I can't go to your soccer game because I messed up and I have to stay home and finish it. He might not assign me an important task for a while because he doesn't trust me, and that's on me. That's not on him being a bad boss. He's a good boss. So we talk about that and we show them there is a consequence for our decision. And then this dad said to his son and daughter, "Hey, by the way, there's always a report due every Tuesday at 2, but it wasn't in my calendar. I put a Tuesday 2 o'clock reminder. I put a Monday 2 o'clock reminder, report due in 24 hours." So he showed the kids that there was a solution that could help him change his behavior. We can talk about those kinds of things.
Well, that's a really smart way to, chat with your children, develop character, and also develop those traits like having a schedule and an honest dialogue with your superiors. So, Dr. Kathy, thank you so much for being with us today.
You're very welcome. Thanks for caring about my book and what I believe. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a delight. That was Dr. Kathy Koch. She is a child development specialist and president of Celebrate Kids, Inc.